Hi, I'm Sammy Murrian and I write about film and television for Parade magazine. The Beguiled is directed by Sofia Coppola. She also adapted the screenplay from a novel by Thomas Cullinan. This was also adapted into a 1971 film that starred Clint Eastwood. This is set during the Civil War in a Southern all-girls school. The women take in a Union soldier who has been injured. This leads to a lot of sexual tension, rivalries. Everything goes in kind of a weird direction and ultimately reaches a breaking point. This movie stars Nicole Kidman, Kirsten Dunst, Elle Fanning, and Colin Farrell. Just a reminder, Sofia Coppola is undeniably a trailblazer and an icon in the film industry. For her second feature, Lost in Translation, Sofia Coppola is one of only 4 women in the history of the Academy Awards to be nominated for Best Director. She also won an Oscar for that movie's screenplay. And just last month, for The Beguiled, Sofia Coppola became only the 2nd woman in history to win the Best Director prize at the Cannes Film Festival. And having seen this film, I will say that award is deserved. Sofia Coppola really is one of our best directors. She has an extremely distinct style. She has an absolute mastery over the elements, over the mise-en-scène. She gets terrific performances from actors. And she has an eye. Sofia Coppola has an eye like few directors that I can think of. You can tell as a director she's very confident. She sees little, small things that, you see when you watch her films. For me, there's never been a boring moment in any of her films. The Beguiled is gorgeous. It is atmospheric. This is one of the most atmospheric movies I have seen lately. Much of this film was shot using natural light and candles only. There was some studio lighting used. However, much of this film was just shot using candles and daylight. The Beguiled was shot on an older aspect ratio, 1:66, which is widescreen, but barely widescreen. It's just barely wider than the image of like an old television, which is called 4:3, for those of you who aren't, as nerdy as I am and aren't as, polished on aspect ratios. This is barely widescreen. This is an aspect ratio that is not really used much in film at all anymore. This almost square frame is used in this film to evoke a sense of claustrophobia and also to really show the actor's body language. Also, this was shot on film. Most movies are shot on digital these days. Sofia Coppola shot this on film. This film looks absolutely incredible. Every single one of Sofia Coppola's movies that she's ever made has been about isolated women. Women who are in one way or another detached, isolated from the outside world. The Beguiled is no exception. This is about an isolated group of women who haven't been around a man in a very long time, and they take in a man, a wounded soldier, no less Colin Farrell, with all of his sexy, rugged, bad boy appeal. The casting in this film, as is the case in all of Sofia Coppola's movies, is totally on point. And the performances are terrific in this film. They're terrific, and they're also restrained and subtle. I was watching one scene in this movie. There's this one scene where Nicole Kidman, who plays like the headmistress at this all-girls school, she's giving a sponge bath to a nearly naked Colin Farrell who is unconscious. And I was watching this scene, thinking to myself, barely anything is happening on screen, technically. It's Nicole Kidman giving a sponge bath to a nearly naked Colin Farrell, and yet, because Sofia Coppola is such a skilled director who has such an eye, and because, Nicole Kidman is Nicole Kidman and can just evoke all kinds of things in the most mundane, situations. I was thinking to myself, watching this one scene, I was like, okay, there is way more going on screen that is interesting in this one scene. There's way more fascinating stuff going on in this one scene than I'm sure you could find anywhere in the entirety of Transformers: The Last Night. I have not seen Transformers: The Last Night. I'm not going to see it If I find time, I'm gonna go see Wonder Woman a third time. I'm not gonna go see Transformers, but I've seen enough of those Transformers movies to know that watching Nicole Kidman play a sexually repressed headmistress in the South who's in heat, delicately sponge off Colin Farrell's almost naked body. I know that watching this is just a bajillion times more interesting than 2.5 hours of Michael Bay bullshit. I was utterly absorbed in this film. I mean, I love Sofia Coppola's directing style. I love that she can just do so much with so much that is subtle. I mean, none of her movies is... it's subtle. All of her films are subtle, but she has just such an eye. This film is very short. It is only 94 minutes long, and I was just completely sucked into this movie the whole way through, and I mean, I could go see this thing again. There is one big issue with this adaptation of The Beguiled that is causing a significant amount of controversy. In the novel and in the 1971 Clint Eastwood film, there is, one of the main characters is a slave. Duh. I mean, this is the South. During the Civil War, there were slaves. Duh. And one of these women in this school is one of the main characters, from what I've read. I have not read the novel, but this is what I have read. One of the main characters is a slave. I have not seen all of the Clint Eastwood film. I've seen bits and pieces of it, but I gotta be honest, I have not seen this thing all the way through. This character has been removed in Sofia Coppola's film. This character is just not in there. There's one line near the beginning of the film where Nicole Kidman says, like, the slaves left. And that's it. That's all that we hear about slavery. Reading the press notes for this movie, Sofia Coppola said that she took the slave character out of this because she didn't want to, like, gloss over the issue of slavery and just have it be, like, in the background of this movie. She was just focused more on the sexual politics, the gender dynamics, the sexual tension. That sort of makes sense to me. I mean, it makes enough sense to me. You know, this is not about that. You know, it made enough sense to me that I was certainly not offended watching this movie. However, I am a white guy, so I don't really think it's my place to say whether this is offensive or not. Totally curious to know what anyone watching this video thinks. If you think it's, you know, atrocious. You know, I can definitely see... I can sort of see both sides of the argument. Like, the way that Sofia Coppola has worded it made enough sense to me for me to enjoy the film. You know, I also can see how this can be problematic. Slavery was the institution of the South during this time period, and to completely eliminate it from a film, you know, I can definitely see why that would be problematic to some. So yeah, let me know what you make of this in the comments. It's not my... I don't feel like it's my place to say whether this is offensive or not, because, as I said, I'm a white guy. Bottom line, The Beguiled does not tell a great story. This is like a pulpy, women in heat, getting all hot and bothered. Then, you know, some stuff goes down. Pretty much a thriller. This is not a great story that is going to change your life, period. So this movie doesn't tell a great story. However, the telling of this story is about as good as a story can be told on screen. I adore Kirsten Dunst. I know that I've talked about her on my channel before, but I absolutely adore Kirsten Dunst. I'll go see anything if she's in it, and I love her in this movie. It's a small role, but she plays someone who is just totally fragile and naive, and it's a side of her that we don't really see because I don't think that's Kirsten Dunst at all. That's one thing that I've always really liked about Kirsten Dunst. She just seems so smart and so willful. All of the performances are absolutely terrific in this film, and there's also many small children in this movie. There are, you know, little girls in this movie giving great performances, and you know, some of that absolutely has to reflect on Sofia Coppola. I definitely recommend this movie, and see it on the big screen, see this in a theater, just because it's so dazzling, as few filmmakers aside from Sofia Coppola can just dazzle you with a movie that didn't have that big of a budget. I'm gonna give The Beguiled an 8.5. See it. One last thing. Last week I actually interviewed Sofia Coppola about this movie for Parade magazine. I was asked if I'd be interested in interviewing Sofia Coppola, and I was like, what? Duh! So yes, I interviewed Sofia Coppola. It was wonderful. That interview is not yet up on Parade Online. When it is, as soon as it is, I'm going to put it in the comments section, so please check that out. Please follow my writing on Parade Online. It is parade.com/member/Samuel Murrian. Follow me on Twitter, follow me on Facebook. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. Take care of yourselves, and be well, everybody. Bye!